Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the Real Collective Podcast. I am Sean Tasse, back in black, joined today, and as always, by my friend and illustrious co host, Kyle Miller. Kyle, how are you today?
Oh, living the dream, boss. Living the dream as usual. It's busy. I'm excited about that. It's busy.
It is,
Um,
man.
yeah,
We put 4 deals together 2 days ago. So,
yeah.
it's comes in waves, I guess. But yeah, as always, guys, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends. Download us on
Forgot that part.
on Apple, Spotify, all that good kind of stuff. You can schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in the links below, in the Calendly links below. Download the buyer guide, download the seller guide below. At the midway point, we'll get into another conversation about Magic Mind. Kyle's going to tell us all about his experience using Magic Mind recently.
Excited.
And like I said, like you say, man, it has been busy. It's been, I wouldn't say hectic, but certainly it feels like the spring market is starting a little bit earlier. Like it's an El Nino year, so things are jumping up a little bit. We thought we talk a little bit about the vacant unit tax, but I think that there's probably also a couple things for us to talk about in terms of the busyness that we're both sort of feeling. Get a sense of what you're feeling in the market and what the sort of expectations are for 2024. I was just having a conversation with an appraiser, and she said, "Oh, I've done some appraisals in January, and they're coming back a lot better than the stuff that I was looking at in December." So overall, positive outlook moving forward into 2024. It seems. You feel the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I've had I had to order. I had to do a bunch of appraisals last week. We typically get appraisal requests specifically on refinances, and then deals. Lots of investment deals are typically on the purchases are well, yeah, and refis. They want to see appraisals, so we've had a lot of appraisers going out, but the values are coming in. Like they're holding steady in the right pockets and the right things. There's always going to be some variance, right? There's always going to be some people who are some pockets who have stayed steady and grown, some pockets that have dropped, and some pockets that have stayed. Some types of properties. I know I had a tough one that I had to close up in December that was boggled my mind that we couldn't get the value we needed. But yeah, lots of appraisals. I got more to order today, so that's good activity. And what that shows is the fact that even though sales were down, that the sales that happened, like it's still holding, which
Yeah,
is good. That's a good thing.
yeah. That's
Sort
yeah.
of. I guess depends what side of that you're on.
Well, I mean, like you said before, you drastic changes aren't what anybody wants, right? Like we didn't nobody wanted what happened during COVID. Like the only people who were happy about the prices going crazy like they did were the people who were sort of taking advantage of it, right? The people who were like, great, you know what? I feel like we're at the top. I'm just gonna sell everything. Right. We have one client like that who sold a bunch at the top and made out really well in terms of the sale prices. But average person, they don't want, like, you talk to most of your friends, are like, man, I don't know how my kids are going to buy houses, right?
Oh,
So
100. It's the mindset. The mindset definitely has to shift. I just had a phone call um with clients that were renewing in like August,
yeah,
and full on just told them flat out because they're like, hey, so what are the interest rates looking like? And I said, essentially, it's going to be double what you have right now. They're coming out of 2.79, right? And just had to have the frank conversation right away. Like, let's not panic, right? You have options. Yes, we might have to extend your amortization, but put the plan in place, and like we can still get you back on track. It's all numbers, guys. So let's just look at it and we'll see. Let's just look at it and we'll see what's up. And that's that sentiment. That's the sentiment that's coming. That's what's going to have to happen. And the thing is that it's part of the plan. So I think that's where people are going to want to look at, how are my kids going to buy a house? It sounds crazy, but what you have is equity, most likely. And there's ways to make it work to buy a house. And that's the stepping stone. It sounds nuts to think taking on that investment is going to be the stepping stone, but it will most likely work out better than you trying to jam whatever kind of money it is or attack your own retirement to fund a house purchase for your kids in 10, 12 years.
There's a new government program that they put into place, first time home buyer savings plan, that allows you to put up to $40,000 away over a 5-year period, a maximum of $8,000 as soon as your kids turn 18, and that's allowed to accrue income up until they're 30. Um,
The FHSA account,
yes,
the first home savings account.
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
So they have to be 18 though.
that's right. Yeah, you can't start on your 2-year-old kid right now. Right? So I think it's 30 or 33 the time by which it has to be used. So it's like, okay, here's what you're doing for your kids. First, you got to set up your RESP. Good. You got to, get them all through school. Then, as soon as they're out of school, you set up their first home savings account, and you keep just piling the money into that next one. So I think a lot of people who are buying properties for their kids when they're young, I think there's a lot of value in that, right? Buy an income property and put your kid's name on it, or put your own name on it. Pull the value out of that and help. I mean, that's the answer to the question of how I think my kids are going to get a house, right? As we're in this new range, I think really what happened over the last 3 years is that we were like, okay, here's the average price in Ottawa. It goes up by 2 or 3% per year. And then 2019, the inventory started like not being able to be enough for what people were wanting. And then the prices went through the roof. You had the COVID on top of that, driving the prices even further. And then I think what really happened is we're in a new range. So we kind of just went, "Whoop, okay." So and now I think we're just going to keep chugging along like we do that 2 or 3% per year average increase. I think the market's figured out where it is now. The fact that you're seeing less sales happening is really similar to what we saw in 2010, 2011, as things were starting to level out. And I think we're going to get back to, okay, well, here's where we are. If you look across the world, you look at any of the other G8 countries, most people who live there don't own their houses. That's something that we've been able to hang our hat on for a long time. But I think that overall there's a change, and I think that you know people who are responsible for making big decisions and infrastructure decisions and installing the LRT and that sort of stuff know that, okay, well, you know what, most of the people who are going to be living in the capital country, a capital city of a GA country, might not be homeowners, might be renters, and they all need a place to live. Everybody needs a place to live, right?
I
So
think it's going to be, I think there's going to be some big, going to be some big, I'm always stuck on the mental changes, right? Big mentality changes over the next kind of like our older generation that's obviously just moving on and our generation and then our kids like that change is going to be wild and in a bunch of different ways like it's our older generation it's going to be you know um if you make that decision as a parent to help your child, right? And not everybody will, and that's so I don't even mind that. But so those who want to, it's how to do it in a way that doesn't impact your lifestyle.
yeah,
And on top of that, it's I think it's also going to be a shift in our generation to be like, hey, mom and dad have this massive house that's worth a ton of money that someone is going to buy and but they need a place to live. So multi-generational living, right? Like the city, the finance people, no, banks have to realize and add value to things like coach houses because they don't. That's a whole topic on itself, right? Those mean nothing. They're glorified sheds. They mean nothing. Cost you 150 or 200 grand to build one, right? To have mom and dad live in the backyard, right? To have that second suite added there. Neighborhoods are going to change. There's this, it's weird to say this, but my neighborhood's an older neighborhood, also established, if you will. And we have we have two houses on our street, and one of them is, for lack of a better term, a vacant house. Like we've seen that guy show up one time in two
yeah,
years, and it's like the city has to come and cut his grass, kind of a thing. Everybody hates it,
Yeah.
right? But what they're going to hate more is the fact that someone's going to come in there with cash, knock that thing down, and put up two houses on that tiny lot.
Yeah.
And we're going to sell two. And the argument's going to be, well, not in my neighborhood, NIMBY stuff. And the other, but the same people are like, yeah, but we need more housing for people, just not here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's going to be a big shift, I think, in people's mentalities is dealing with that. So there's all these changes that I think is just going to be absolutely wild to be in it, because you and I literally are in it,
Yeah.
and to see how everybody else deals with it. It's going to be wild.
It's certainly going to be interesting. I think you brought up the piece about the vacant unit tax is what we're going to talk about. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to it in the second half because
Yeah,
we're rambling. But
yeah,
you're right. We
par
are,
for the course.
and yeah, right. And yeah, I mean, our house, we're in the same thing. We're in a neighborhood that is also established. We've got a bunch of big houses that were all custom built back in the 60s. Everybody's lived there for a long time. We put a secondary dwelling unit in our basement. And with this new bill, I think it's Bill 23 or C23 or whatever it is, each house in R1 zoning can have 3 units. It can have the main unit in the main house, it can have a unit in the basement, and they can also have that, detached garage or glorified shed or whatever it might be. So all of it leads to, oh well, 200 amp service because the shed can't have its own service. It needs to all be led from that one main house. So you're right, like the way that we live our life will change over the next little while, and it might take a long time before it happens, because just because you're allowed to do something doesn't mean that everybody's going to do it, right?
Well, and that's the thing from the finance side of stuff. Talk about it all the time, right? Uh, you know, the it changing the banking world is like trying to move the Titanic, right? So like right now, someone I know a guy here who spent like, it was I'm gonna make up a number, but it was easily like 150 to 200 grand on building a home, a coach house for his mother-in-law
Yeah.
on their property, right? And I think it was the mother-in-law's property, sold their house, revamped mother-in-law's property for them and their family, but then built, as part of the deal, built her a house in the backyard. Boom, she still lives there. She's close to them. It's better than a home or a senior's residence and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
That thing cost him 200 grand. The amount of value that adds to that property is nothing to the bank. It's nothing. So someone's like, wait a sec, there's got to be value there because I can rent it. I can do this. I can do this. Nobody gives a shit about that yet, right? So to be first in real estate can sometimes be great, but it can also mean you're spending the money before seeing any return, right?
I,
So that's the stuff that I find wild and how it has to change.
I remember when we first started doing SDUs, because before that it was kind of just like in-law suites or nanny suites or whatever. We go back
Yeah.
5 or 10 years. We were putting legal secondary dwelling units in the basement of bungalows, and the appraisers would go in and be like, okay, well, a bungalow in this neighborhood is worth $400,000. Like, well, we don't. We've got 2 units. We've got the bungalow. I mean, you have to look at the income approach, not just the comparative market,
Mm-mm.
and they won't, right? And so it's just like, we're you were missing, and it's the same thing here for the early adopters.
Which is a bank thing. And by the way, that's not an appraiser being a dick. I'll stick up for my appraisers.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah,
not them being dicks. Some of them suck, but a lot of them are good, right? That's the bank not willing to take that money because they haven't wrapped their heads around how this is going to affect them. Because remember, the bank's going to sit there and look at this and go, "You're probably going to screw us. You're going to fail. You're not going to pay us, and this becomes our problem." So
right.
I don't want that problem because how do I know how much a 2 unit house is going to sell for? Oh, woe is me. Like, anyway, that's literally how they think. Okay. So when you see that, right, that's what you have to get around as a consumer. You're like, this is mint. As the guy, as the people that finance that, they're just like, no way. Mm-mm-mm. So it's a different mentality, right?
I was talking with a prospective client yesterday, and he made a joke. He's like, "Oh, all these bank executives just need to sell one of their 10 mega yachts, drop the interest rates, and we'll all be okay." Like, I don't know, man. I feel like you've been listening to way too much like 580
Yeah, yeah.
CFRA.
It's not Bezos. Like it's not
Right,
Jeff Bezos,
right.
right? Like
Yeah.
no,
I was just
no,
like,
no, no.
all right, man. I don't know if we're gonna be the right fit to work together, but thanks for your comment.
If he watches this, he might not sign that contract though, because I'm sure he knows who he is.
Yeah, yeah. There's only one guy I'm talking to who's talking about a bank executive selling mega yachts. Anyways,
Yeah.
let's
Okay.
talk a little bit more about vacant unit tax in the second half. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with some of your friends or anybody who might be interested in this type of conversation. You can download the buyer guides below and seller guides below. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thanks for your ears. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks so much. We'll be back after a quick word from our sponsor, Magic Mind, who have been awesome. Catch you on the flip side.
Yeah. So I was I have we got the Magic Mind. I tried it like once and then it was off day or two. And I tried it again, it was off day or two, and I hit it consistently this week. And the one thing I have noticed is one, I'm not opposed to this stuff, which is interesting. I switched from coffee to a different type of coffee product, which was more natural based. And this stuff came in, and I'm like, yep, I'm going to give it a shot. No problem, open minded to it. And the one thing I've really noticed is that in the morning, like I don't drink coffee in the morning anymore. I do have a tea, but I'm, it just lengthens everything. Like it's just a smoother, consistent uh, focus for a lot longer. I may consider starting to try to do two a day. I have to read. I have to read and make sure that I'm not overdoing it. But I love the consistent feeling. It tastes okay. Like it doesn't taste bad. People think about it like it would taste like you know bad. I was going to use a bad example, but I won't do that. So I've definitely seen the notice. I definitely like it. It's in me now to say like, yeah, take it in the morning to keep that consistency. And I'm excited to see how the longer term effects are, for sure. And um, from a yeah, from us, and it's great to have them sponsor the podcast, which is great. You can get the discount code in the link below if you sign if you go and get it in January. You can get 20 at least 20% off your first order for sure, and it should be real collective 20 is our discount code that's in there. So go check that out. Give it a shot. Like, what do you got to lose? If what you're doing right now isn't working, then this is what can work, and it's not going to hurt you to try it. And I've really enjoyed using it so far. Definitely want to see how it keeps going in the longer term. So we're definitely going to touch on that coming up for sure. But definitely enjoying it.
Nice. Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the second half of the Real Collective podcast. I have just had my shot of Magic Mind, and I feel like I can talk forever like this. Bah! Just kidding. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who you think might be interested in this type of conversation. We're going to talk about vacant unit taxes. Before we do, schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in our Calendly links below. Download the buyer or seller guide or both in those links below. You can also check the link for Magic Mind down below. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thanks so much. And if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see our beautiful semi faces. So, vacant unit tax. This was put into place last year in 2023. A lot of people think it is a cash grab. Kyle, tell us all about how much you love it.
It's a waste of time. What's it doing? What's it doing? Like this is a waste of time. You know what it is? You know what this feels like?
Tell me.
This is one of those things where it's like you're in high school, right? And you see somebody getting picked on. I'm not saying this is nice. Just saying someone's getting picked on, and then like someone else just jumps in, like just because like, they don't because they don't want to be picked on next, right? And I'm like, that's what this is. I get why they started to do this in Vancouver. Okay, like the data showed there was so many pieces of real estate that are vacant and foreign owned, and it was an investment, like pure investment.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that doesn't happen here.
a parking lot for foreign money.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm not saying that doesn't happen here. But at the same point, is this is the only answer we could come up with, was having was this, and it's not even like how much money are they making off this?
Well,
That's what I want to know.
well, I want to know what it costs them to implement it,
Implement.
right? So what's the cost and the time? And if you factor in like all of the employees that are putting it together, all of the letters that they're sending out, all of the follow up that they're doing, the policing, all that sort of stuff. What are they? What's the cost and what are they getting back? I'll tell you, we've got 2 units at our house, and we submitted. Yeah, we live here for our house, and we didn't submit one for the second unit because we've got an SDU in the basement where my mother-in-law lives. And so she got a notice saying, "Oh, hey, you didn't submit this, therefore we think you're vacant." Like, oh, well, now we have to do like, I don't know. We kind of dropped the ball on it, so I hope that they will grant us some sort of. But somebody has to grant that to me, which means somebody's spending time doing it to get nothing for it, right? I,
Like it's
that's my
so much
personal.
resource, so
Yes.
much resource
Yeah.
for so little gain, for
Yes.
so little gain. It boggles my mind that this is where we went. And again, I'm not suggesting that it doesn't happen here. Okay, I'm not suggesting that. But at the same point, what are we getting out of this? What are we getting out of this?
It'll be good. It'll be good to see if they release the numbers and they say like, oh, well, here's how many people said that that they have a vacant unit. Here's how many people didn't make a claim one way or the other. Here's how much total income the city has received from this program, and here's how much total expenses were allotted to that program. And I'm talking not just like I'm not like not just the letters that are sent out, but like the expense of the people who are implementing the plan, right? Like, what about the soft cost, the human cost? So I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe it's done really well, but I don't know how long it will last for if it's a losing proposition, right? Like that's
Well, they can't go back on it. I mean, they dig their heels in on this stuff. Who's going to be the person that comes out and says, "Hey, we fucked up"? Like, sorry, you know, like who's saying that? Yeah,
yeah.
come on. Like, I almost prefer it had it been launched as um like almost like a study. Like, hey, we think this is happening to this degree. Now I know they have to have some type of data behind this. I also don't trust that very well, and that's me because you know how would you go around knocking on everybody's house? Like, what'd you do? Other than just listen to someone say, "I've never seen that guy leave his house," right? Like, okay. Um, so I almost would have said like, I would love to have this be a data project. Be like, we want to see how bad this is, so we can present this and then tell you guys why you need to do it as citizens, why we need to do this. Because right now, it's as far as I'm concerned, and I can be completely off base here, right? As far as I'm concerned, someone just said, "Yeah, Vancouver's doing it. Must happen here too. Let's go." Like that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Like I
I, you know, I think they did do some research. I was following it as it was coming out, but you're right. I think it was based on expectations in terms of what was vacant as opposed to reality, and I don't think they had the real numbers. So I think this was like it was like both at the same time. It's like, hey, let's put this into place and figure out what the thing is. But the first year was last year in 2023. Well, 2023 is over. Where's the report? Where's the accountability? Where's the, hey, you know what, here's how much we spent, here's how much we collected. I'll tell you my personal experience of it. It's annoying. It's just one more thing to have to do, and I hate doing stuff like that. I don't like doing taxes. I don't like doing like all the stupid stuff that you have to do to be an adult. I don't like doing any. Nobody likes doing any of it.
don't like adulting. It's
Yeah.
dumb.
Well, like I'll make food and and
Keep my kids alive, but
hey, yeah, shovel the driveway, all that kind of stuff. But like all the extra paperwork and like, hey, it's your birthday, and so happy birthday to you. You've got to go to the DMV and update your driver's license and send this in and da da da. Da. Oh, it's been 5 years. You didn't update your passport. Now you got to go back to the passport office and restart from scratch because you let that fall through. Like I don't like any of that stuff, man. It's just it's it's monotonous, it's paperwork, and it's often very like clerical, where you've got to jump through a bunch of hoops. And I'm just like, no thanks. Like I got better thing. I'd rather sell a house. I'd rather talk with you for half an hour than do any of that other.
It's a make. It just seems like it's a make work project to make it seem like they're it's pandering. It's pandering to make it look like you're doing something about the problem.
Right.
This will solve nothing. This will solve nothing. If you and that's the thing, if you are rich enough to sit on a house and just pay for it do you think that fine is gonna encourage that person to get it on the market?
So no, of course not. So just to be clear, so that if anybody doesn't know or hasn't heard about it, if you are not living in your house for more than half of the year, you have to disclose that, hey, I don't live here for more than half the year, and you've got to pay 1% of the assessed value of your house over and above your regular property taxes. So if your house is assessed at $600,000, you've got to pay an extra $6,000 if you're not living, or if you're living in your house for less than half a year. That's what it is. That's the deal.
So what happens then? What happens if you if so this is interesting. So short-term rental, right? Short-term rental in Ottawa, as far as I know it, has to be your owner occupied property,
Correct.
right? That new bylaw came out. It has to be in your owner occupied property.
Yeah.
So I'm a snowbird. I go to Florida for 6 months, come back whatever 3 weeks to get my OHIP or whatever, and then I have someone else who lives in my house, and it's rented for 6 months, which is still at this weird gray area with short term rentals because it's over 31 days, but it's less than a year, blah, 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 right?
The number
So is it vacant?
the numbers, no, it's not vacant. Uh, the number
Well, I
is
don't pay the tax.
168 days. So if you are gone, if you are not living at your, no, sorry, if if someone's there, it's not vacant,
So
right?
there you go. So it's
So
not about you not living there. It's just the house literally not being vacant.
right, exactly. And there are stipulations. There's things that clear you of it. If your house is for sale, it doesn't apply. If somebody died within the last whatever, it doesn't. Like if it's vacant because somebody has deceased or somebody's passed away and they're not living there anymore, the estate doesn't have to pay the vacant unit tax, for X
Waiting
amount.
for probate and all that kind of stuff to sort out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different outs. If you're doing major renovations on your house and you can't live there, you don't have to pay a vacant unit tax on it on top of already spending all this stuff. So there's some outs for sure. But yeah, I mean, they're also putting the foreign buyer ban on, saying, oh well, you can't buy a property if you don't live in Canada. And again, it's pointing, it's the right sentiment, but it's pointing in the wrong direction, right? And it's an
Well,
easy
and then
sell, right?
that's the thing. It's just they're talking out of both sides of their mouth here because it's just so typical of every level of government right now, especially when it comes to real estate. Yes, we have a problem. Okay, everybody likes to talk about the problem. Nobody likes to actually hammer out solutions. But here's this new tax in this new form that keep you guys busy, so we look like we're doing something, even though we're doing nothing. Oh, by the way, that rule, you can have this exception and this one and this one, this one, this one, that exception, but not you, and that one too.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's great.
Remember Monopoly? Remember the luxury tax at 25%? That's the worst spot you could ever land on. Brutal. And just to be clear, everybody who's involved in this, who isn't trying to pander to the general public, knows exactly what the solution is to the problem. It's build more houses. The end. We don't have enough houses for people to live in, and they need to build more. And if they build more houses, if they build enough houses, too many houses would even be good. Then the other thing that will happen, the value of houses will go down. It solves everything. Let's just build more of them. And they even said, hey, let's get this legislation and we'll call it the More Homes Built Faster. And we're going to build more homes. And they say that they're going to do it. And you look around and it's not fucking happening. So it's like,
Well,
that's the thing.
the day after, I'll say the day after, that's an exaggeration, but not by much. The day after one of those bills were put out, right? Maybe it was provincially, maybe it was nationally, because I think there's a different one in Ontario too. John Tory, well, before he got kicked out as mayor for that stuff, of Toronto, raised development fees by 50%. So it's like, we need more houses. Yeah, we're gonna jack up the cost to make it.
Yeah.
They don't want it. They don't want it.
Right.
They don't want it. They're working against each other. They don't want it to happen. They're going to make sure it doesn't happen. Too many of the people don't. It's this. That's the not in my. That's the NIMBY stuff. Not in my backyard. We need more houses, just not here because my value will go down.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Just not here though,
Yeah.
right? Over there though, for sure, because Toronto's crazy. You need more there, but not here.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's certainly a heated debate around these parks, but it is the easiest solution, right? Like, I would be okay if the value of my house comes down if it meant that everybody had a place to live.
Yeah, like it. At the end of the day, my 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 worth, my as a person is not built in the value of my house,
Right.
right? I just need to pay for it,
Right.
you know. And and again, if I have to pay for it longer, well, maybe I personally I'm okay. Like it would sucks, but I'm okay with that. Like it is what it is, right? And it's like that's I think as we circle all the way back, that is going to be the biggest mental shift that homeowners are going to have to make, is that we will be paying for our houses longer. And yes, that is going to be our generation's shift,
Yeah.
I guess, right? Like that's it. We'll be our boomer generation talks about how, the jokes, right? They bought their house for two raspberries and $1 and paid it off in 48 minutes. And like, and then why can't we work harder? Right? Like, sure. And we're not going to be that. We're going to be the people who are like, nope, like it's multi-gen. Yep, it turned out to be 40 years because we were allowed to buy cars for $180,000, just, vans for $180,000. Like, that's a different story. That's what's going to happen. And, if you don't agree with that or don't like that, then you have to make more money and you have to work longer. So pick what you're doing more of.
Yeah.
Paying for your house longer,
yeah,
or eating up your time more to get more money to pay it off sooner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think,
there's no right answer there.
No, that's good. I like the circle back. I think the idea of our parents' generation, hey, pay your mortgage off, pay your mortgage off, pay your mortgage off, get that paid off so that you have no other costs. I think that's that dream. I think, like you said, the mental shift, that dream is getting further and further away, right? It's like you might not have paid off your mortgage by the time you die, right?
Sorry, go ahead. I'll finish, but I got one thing.
Yeah, no, go. You're fine.
Just, straight up, if you follow money, right? If you follow money, I think we have now three lenders that do reverse mortgages. We used to have one. We now have three. And that's writing on the wall that people are not paying off their mortgage, and that yet value is still tied into their equity, and that product makes money.
Well, hey, man, the longer the mortgage goes, the more money the bank makes, and they can go and buy their mega yachts, right? So, I mean, we're
Both
just
those guys. Yeah,
full circle on everything. All right, guys. This is what happens with Magic Mind in our brain, how we're able to fully circle right back to where we started. So, as always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends, and download us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Check out magicmind.ca. Go down to below to see our links in the description. Schedule an appointment with Kyle or I on the Calendly links. If you all of the other things that I need to say.
We need to roll credits now. Just we got enough. Just roll credits through.
Yeah, just
Alicia, making credits happen.
Housekeeping script insert here.
Just you and me still jazzing in the background.
That's it. Yeah. And until next time, keep it real.
Collective.